For more about the foreign implications of the Detroit bailout dispute, we are joined once again by Roben Farzad, a senior writer and columnist for BusinessWeek magazine. Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Even if the U.S. automakers survive, they're obviously going to be in a vastly different form than what they are now. What can they learn from their foreign competitors?
It's not a lot you can learn in a compressed 6-month window. The foreign competitors have been nipping at their heels for 2 or 3 decades. It's all about operations, about slicing pennies off of auto parts and operations and efficiencies and bringing in consultants and iteration after iteration. But I think the biggest moral of the story here is that you reap what you sow. If you take austerity, if you take your lumps up front, you're better positioned in the downturn to be one of the ones that's left standing.
There has been statements made that the overseas car makers, the competitors, have been benefiting or could benefit from this confusion that Ford, GM, and Chrysler have found themselves in. What exactly does that mean, and how do they benefit?
It's a fine line, because as the U.A.W. and as GM and Chrysler and Ford say, that bankruptcy is in nobody's interest, because already you have a really lackluster economy in the United States, and certainly globally we're seeing signs of that. As long as you have the competitive case that the likes of Toyota, Honda, Mercedes can make, that why buy an automobile from a bankrupt company? You're never going to be assured of the bona fides of the warranty, or where are you going to get parts if these dealers close down? Is it going to become prohibitive for you? That is a net positive for the competitors from abroad. But to the extent that these guys get into a death spiral, you know, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, that approaches liquidation, that's actually bad for the foreign automakers, because there are so many joint ventures here and abroad that would unwind. And the last thing you want is to get in line at a bankruptcy court if you're Toyota or Honda for your share of the assets.
Last night, just as this deal was starting to unravel, from the Republican perspective, their demands were that they felt that the Detroit auto worker need to be paid more in line with the automaker in the southern part of the U.S., in other words, working for the foreign companies that have built factories here. Is it true Detroit auto workers are vastly overpaid?
When you look at it as an apples-to-apples proposition, which is difficult to do because the Detroit automakers have, north of $1,000 in legacy costs that's built into the fully loaded costs of an automobile. Now, the Japanese automakers and some of the German automakers who came to Kentucky, to Tennessee in the early 90s, they were able to do this with a clean slate, not decades of legacy costs. So they were able to say, if we wanted to conceive of an automaker with talent and train people from scratch, how would we do it? They didn't have all these costs that they were saddled with. So it isn't an apples-to-apples comparison, but it is an important thing to note that, you know, GM and Toyota and Honda are not starting from the same point. GM has significant obligations to pensioners, and some would argue that only a bankruptcy would afford them the ability to offload those.
Real quick, the head of Fiat said only 5 or 6 companies are going to survive all of this. Who are they?
It could be up as many as 10. They're going to be conglomerates. Certainly we see pockets of strength in Japan. Honda and Toyota are more relevant than ever, especially with fuel efficiency technology. The German automakers still have a robust niche, what with Daimler and BMW.
What about here in the U.S.?
Here in the U.S., there might be 1 or 2. You know, there isn't necessarily space for 3 automakers here. There's so many redundancies, and the demand isn't there. You also have the Koreans, you have the Chinese. They're national champions, and certain governments are hell-bent on not letting their national champions fail.
Roben Farzad, thank you very much for the insight.
Thank you so much.